Trying to drive forward a new initiative in an organization that is large, that has many moving parts, that have multifunctional teams with differing goals and priorities is certainly a challenge. And especially when you're working on a concept like accessibility that already has some negative connotations, people feel like it's more work, that it's difficult, it's overwhelming, they're not sure about it. It can be really hard to move things forward. And that was something that I was tasked with doing in the Office of Distance Education and E-Learning at Ohio State. And I decided to go about this with a multifaceted approach and initially start by determining if we had the right infrastructure in place. And so I wanted to make sure that people would be set up to be successful in thinking about accessibility. So did we have a place for them to go for resources? Did we have channels and pathways to ask questions and get support? And was it easy to find those channels? Was it easy to find those pathways? Did we have some processes in place to help make this easier and streamlined? And initially the answer was no. And so that was the first place to really start. And then we moved into outreach and thinking about, all right, now that we have this infrastructure in place, how do we raise awareness about it? How do we start to change mindsets to think about accessibility and universal design in a different way, in a way that lends itself to more positive reaction? And that happened through a lot of training, a lot of building buy-in, a lot of telling stories, a lot of finding the things that make people tick and that motivate people in their work. And there is a wide variety of things, whether it's avoiding risk, whether it's uh, looking better than your peer in some cases, whether it's having a platform to speak and share the good work that you're doing. We needed to find out what makes people tick, what makes people feel motivated and excited about work, and how do we leverage that to talk about accessibility. And then finally, empowerment, which was and is the piece of this puzzle where the rubber hits the road and where we now take people with an increased awareness of universal design and accessibility and help them to think about what it means for their work and how they can drive forward accessibility in each of their areas and each of their work areas of work, even in small ways. And so we established a task force across the department with representatives from different functional teams to think about what accessibility means in their given area because one single person cannot do that. One single person cannot figure that out. And so how do we get the right minds together to determine what that needs to look like in the field when you roll up your sleeves and you get the work done? We also needed to leverage relationships to think about who can be our champions, who are people who really buy into and believe in universal design and the ways that accessibility can improve the experience for all students, and to really tell that story and really get those people the platform that they need to tell those stories. And again, it comes back to understanding people's unique personalities and things that make them feel motivated and leveraging those things to help drive the initiative forward with those individual people. So if you have someone who is a strong leader, who is maybe even more dominating in nature as a leader, then what are the ways that you can take that person and get them bought into and involved in accessibility or any initiative to help move it forward? It's probably going to look a little bit different for that person than it would be for someone who responds more emotionally, has a high, maybe higher emotional intelligence, who understands the human pieces of driving an initiative forward. Probably going to look a little bit different, and but both serve very important purposes. And finally, we needed to find ways to help those people think about how accessibility in, can become an integral part of their current processes rather than a layer added on top. Now, I think if you were to take out the word accessibility and put in virtually any initiative, any project, taking this approach would probably lead you toward pretty strong success because it doesn't matter the topic. People need to know why it's important to them, how it impacts their work, and you need to get them involved to really drive any initiative forward. And so, no matter what that is, people need to buy into it in whatever way it works for them and whatever drives them in their work. They need to be able to speak about it, to hear stories about it, to be engaged with it in that particular way. And in doing that, an initiative can move forward with success.